Hola chicos! So today we are going to talk about our last author, whose name is Camilo Cela, and it's one of the most recent authors that we are going to discuss, since, as you can see, he died in 2002, so not too long ago. And he is a man of many faces. You will understand what I mean when you see some of the information that we are going to cover about him. So let's start with a little bit about him. He was born Camilo José Manuel Juan Ramón Francisco de Jerónimo Cela Trolloc. And again, one long name for what is supposed to be an important person in the future. He was born in Galicia, in the northwest of Spain in 1916, and his father was a part-time author, and he was Spanish, and his mother was English. He grew up in a middle-class type of family, and he was able to attend the University of Madrid. Then, starting with the many faces type of man, he fought during the Civil War. He fought on the side of Franco until apparently he was wounded by an errant grenade. But then later on in life, he rejected Franco's dictatorial rule. He also worked for a newspaper, but at the same time, he worked as a censor. So sometimes his decisions did not make much sense. Anyway, in 1944, he married Rosario Conde Picabea, with whom he had a son, Camilo José Cela Conde, 2 years later. But then he divorced her in 1990, and he got married to Marina Castaño in 1991. You have her in that picture, that's Marina. In 1957, he was appointed a member of the Real Academia Española with the letter capital Q, which is like one of the titles that you get. You normally are assigned a letter of the alphabet, so he was assigned letter capital Q. And he was also named Marquis of Iria Flavia by King Juan Carlos I. He was also Doctor Honoris Causa at the Universities of Syracuse, Birmingham, John F. Kennedy in Buenos Aires, Palma de Mallorca, Santiago de Compostela, Puerto Rico, the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and he was also a professor at the University of Palma de Mallorca. Some of the selected works, yes, quite a few, are here, and you can think there are quite a lot, but then there's more. And then there's more. And some more. So you can see he was quite a busy man. During his late life, he was also lucky enough to be awarded the Nobel Prize of Literature. And it was 1991 when he married his second wife. We already mentioned that. And she was 42 years younger than him. He died, as we already said, also in 2002, 17th of January. But some other interesting facts about his life is that he wrote this work called Cristo versus Arizona in 1998 that tells the story of a Jew in this place, the OK Corral, that is written using a single sentence that is more than 100 pages long. We have already mentioned that. Well, he's the one that wrote a book using just one full sentence. He also wrote the Diccionario Secreto, the Secret Dictionary, which is a dictionary of the forbidden swear words and expressions. Apart from that, he was also the honorary doctor of forensic medicine, and he was a senator by royal appointment in the Constituent Assembly during the years of 1977 and 1978. But that's not all. Together with that, he boasted in a TV interview about his ability to absorb a liter of water via his anus, yes, you heard well, offering to demonstrate. So that's the show. Let's see.
Ay, cariño, podríamos empezar así.
Segundos. Y así podríamos estar durante tiempo y tiempo, porque, por ejemplo, la habilidad que tengo, que es la de absorción de 1,5 litros de agua de un solo golpe por vía anal.
¿Cómo?
Sí. Si quieren, piden una palangana y lo demuestro. Bueno.
Es decir, que coge una palangana.
Sí.
Con 1,5 litros de agua, ¿y qué es lo que hace? Se sienta
Trago,
encima y la absorbe.
Sí. Esto lo hace muy poca gente.
Que preparen una palangana inmediatamente con 1,5 litros de
agua que
agua.
no esté demasiado fría.
Y que no tenga cloro.
No, es igual. Mis papilas del gusto no las tengo en ese conducto, sino en otro.
Well, not only he was offering to demonstrate, but he was, as you could see, like making fun of it and almost bragging about it. Okay. Well, together with that, he just said that the Spanish Cervantes Prize was a piece of shit, and then he was later awarded with it, and of course he accepted it because the prize is 100,000 euros. So, well, apparently he didn't care too much that it was that shitty at that moment. Anyway, I wanted also to show you some of his manuscripts, since you could see some of the many works that he wrote, and most of them were handwritten. Okay, so you can see that's him writing. That's also him. He was not a very organized or tidy type of man. As a curious fact, we also have the first wedding invitation and some note poetry where he mentions Garcilaso. And now, moving on to his works, let's see some of the general features. He started a writing style known as tremendismo. What's that? It's this idea of brutal realism. So I'm going to tell you a story without hiding or without using any metaphors or anything like that, just real life and real words to express real facts. Okay, but his works also have also themes of existentialism, and together with that, he adds some humor and experiments with narrative time. For example, in the work that we are going to cover by him, the lives and violent emotions of different hundred of characters are mixed together. But that is only possible because Cela writes with great detail, describing at the same time landscape and picturesque individuals. And he does it so well that you don't get lost when he describes so many different characters. Anyway, it's not included in our class this semester, but I wanted to talk to you about this work, which is the one that he wrote the first, and it describes the prison memoirs of Pascual Duarte, who has kind of trouble finding validity in conventional morality and commits a number of crimes, including murders, for which he seems to be feeling nothing. In this novel, Cela employs techniques drawn from the Renaissance Spanish picaresque, using a novel that gives the first-person account. But in this occasion, the main character is the anti-hero, but he is also a murderer, which was not the same with Lázaro. He tried to reflect the crude reality of rural Spain in Franco's time, and this novel is actually of particular importance because it played a large part in shaping the direction of the post-war Spanish novel. It was banned, as you can imagine, for its seemingly gratuitous violence, because it's really crude. It's very explicit in everything that is described. So about the work, we have that Pascual Duarte was raised in a harsh climate of his home with beating and alcoholism, as what happened with Lázaro. And this would mark the bad luck that Pascual would have later. Again, the similarities with Lázaro are there. But then he has like continuous tragedies, like the death of people that are nearby, like the children and her sister, and prostitution. But there are also moments of happiness for the main protagonist. For example, the birth of his son, Pascualillo, little Pascual, but also it is described as a moment of happiness when he finally kills his mother, and he says that he finally manages to breathe. So with all those features, you can imagine this is a novel about total pessimism. And that's it for this one. I just wanted to give you a couple of ideas about the content, and if you're interested, I do recommend it to you. So let's move on to the novel we are going to be discussing, which is La Colmena, the hive or the beehive. It includes more than 300 characters, as we mentioned, and it's considered the best Spanish realism next to Cervantes, but this one is more in the sarcastic and grotesque side of realism. It was first published in Argentina because of some of the features that we're going to see soon. This is a short excerpt to give you an idea what some of the stories are about. For example, he describes how after lunchtime the waste ground is the resort of old people who come there to feed on the sunshine like lizards. Not a really nice thing to say. And then you can read the rest, which is also not particularly nice or beautiful with what he's trying to represent or describe. Then some of the most important facts is that in the date that it was published, 1951, Cela writes this work as a collective novel, and it traces this very complex pattern of post-war type of Madrid, because the 300 characters appear and disappear in quick notes. The majority of them are like negligible or vulgar, but there are also people that are helpless, beaten by life, and he uses at the same time a cold and tender look to describe them. So, together with being a collective novel where there is no real main character, there is no real protagonist, society is the protagonist. That's why he officially inaugurated the genre known as social novel. It's a portrait of the urban Spain, dominated by hunger and deception after war, and it is also a choral work where hundreds of characters with barely another conductive thread than the space and the environment around them. For all these reasons, we cannot consider The Hive a traditional novel, and therefore it cannot be delimited using traditional terms, so it's difficult to describe it. To start with, it has no argument. The atmosphere is described through the actions of the characters, who in turn design the structure of the novel. So again, the characters are defined by the talking and moving, and at the same time, it has an open ending. So you can see how different works are combined here, like La Celestina or Picar's novel, together with being this full social, collective novel. We can say also that it's a clock novel. In the prologue of the first edition, Cela would say himself that its architecture is really complex and that it cost him a lot of work to do it, and he described it as if it was like this clock that needs to be working perfectly because it was made of multiple wheels and little pieces that need each other so that it works, it makes sense. We also see a urban type of setting with several incursions into marginal suburbs, and these marginal people contrast with an incipient bourgeois. So it's the people that didn't do that well after war with the people that did do well after war. What else? Each chapter is composed of a series of sequences. These sequences are separated by a blank space, and they are of variable length, sometimes less than a page, and very rarely more than 2 or 3 pages. Each sequence, in general, focuses on a different character, or maybe on several, but they are always connected, and we have a total number of 213. The fact that it is collective is that the lives are presented as such because they weave a collective way of living that would be the primary focus for the novelist, to represent the life in Madrid in 1942. So let's see a little bit of the novel structure. Chapters 1 and 2 are about the first day that it is being described. Chapter 3 is the second day evening. Chapter 4 is first day night. Chapter 5 is second day evening and night. Chapter 6 is dawn and of the second day. And there's this final that it's one morning, one random morning, 3 or 4 days later. So, consequently, the chronological order of the chapters would be 1, 2, 4, 6, 3, 5, and then the final, if you wanted to read it in the chronological order. Let's have a look at the themes that are discussed in this novel. To start with, one familiar theme that we have talked about, hunger, money and the power of money, post-war memories, alienation and separation from others, the role of society, and also the different roles of women. We have here the cover of the DVD. It's an old movie, but it's a really, really good one, and the novel is very well represented. And in the movie, we can see how the action takes place over a little more than 3 days, and how, because for that reason, this masterpiece was the prelude of what we have discussed as social realism. Fun fact about this picture, this is a picture that is about one of the scenes in the movie. On the left-hand side, pointing up with his finger, we have Cela, the author, who participated in the movie himself, and he's sitting next to this man with a black hat or cap who seems to be smoking. That's actually the actor that played the role of the blind man in the Lazarillo movie. Anyway, you have some very short fragments for you to discuss, which is this beginning of chapter 1, where we are going to talk about Doña Rosa, which is one of the sequences, and Don Leonardo, another one of the sequences, to see some of the most important features for this novel, and then how the cafe in which Doña Rosa works is described in the third one of the sequences. Well, so with this, there's nothing else for me to tell you, but thank you for a great and kind of weird semester, and I'm going to miss you all. Thank you.